third episode of the Guide to Space podcast. I'm your host, Esad, and our guest, as usual, Emrullah, my brother. So, today, I wanted to talk about space debris. I've been wanting to do a podcast on this for a while now. Space debris is a subject very close to my heart. I've done a lot of projects, a lot of presentations on it, but my brother here thinks it's a niche problem or something that's not really important in today's world. So I wanted to do this episode today. I wanted to talk about the importance of space debris, hopefully persuade my brother and that it's a really important subject, and it's a really important problem, and I wanted to also talk about the ways that we can potentially solve this problem, space pollution. And I want to talk about a project that I did for school last year. I designed a little spacecraft to collect debris. I will go into the design further into the episode. So, again, I want to start out by asking space debris, some questions about space debris. What do you think about space debris? What do you like? How important do you think it is today? And I mean, just what are your thoughts on space pollution? Let's start off with that.
I don't really spend much of my day thinking about space debris or space pollution, and you can understand from that I don't think it's a terribly important, terribly urgent problem. I mean, we have hunger, poverty to address, and space pollution seems like or even before that, like pollution in Earth's air and oceans, I would guess at like only surface level knowledge, are more important than space pollution, is it not? I mean, we are living on Earth at the moment, and the air pollution and sea pollution are hurting people at this very moment, whereas space pollution is just a problem for future exploration efforts. And before cleaning up your own home world, it seems like a bad allocation of our resources to focus on future exploration, future colonies that don't even exist at the moment.
Okay, so yeah, you focused a lot on the moment.
Yes, because we are living in the moment. Space debris can be addressed 20, 30 years later, I guess. But each second that we don't address air pollution, for example, people are suffering from it.
I mean, 20 to 30 years from now, it's a lot, and the satellites we spend, the amount of satellites we send to space rises exponentially. So from 20 to 30 years on now, who knows how many satellites are there. And I mean, I don't think we can really address this 20 to 30 years ago and 20 to 30 years later. And I mean, 20 to 30 years ago, there weren't nearly as much spacecraft orbiting the Earth 20 to 30 years ago. And if we don't address it now, I think we're going to start to understand how this is going to be really bad and how it's going to really affect space exploration and just exploration, the advancement of the human civilization.
I mean, it's exciting to see a human civilization expand, I guess, but 20, 30 years ago, we neglected air pollution and ocean pollution and other sorts of pollution that immediately affects us, and now we are seeing the effects of that, I mean, huh, hmm. You actually have a good point there because I guess addressing the problem now
Right.
it would be better than spending significantly more resources and
Yes.
addressing it later when it's gotten out of control. However, I think what would even be better maybe is that we uh, do not focus on cleaning up space, but bringing in new regulations to ensure it isn't polluted any further. Uh, because this doesn't take up. This doesn't need. We don't need to allocate significant efforts to put such regulations in place, and when we do, I mean, it might slow things down a bit. I don't know, like satellite internet or whatever satellite technologies are being developed, but it may
Being
prevent.
developed and used. I mean, satellites. We rely on satellites significantly today.
Yeah, I know, but like I don't know if he, for example, some undiscovered technology, uninvented technology might need far more satellites in orbit than what we have at the moment, and maybe we could put a pause on that until we are comfortable with addressing space pollution in terms of actually cleaning up space. So I think, like you're saying, the space pollution will increase and become more of a problem. I think
Right.
the best policy would be to ensure that doesn't happen before we get under control the current problems on Earth that we are battling at the moment. Because I mean, I guess this would take huge amounts of resources to accomplish cleaning up space. Yeah, no, or like even if it doesn't, even if it takes like a relatively moderate amount of resources, there is always the argument that those resources could have saved lives elsewhere, or translate into better conditions for people.
I mean, one thing that I want to add on is that, like, ocean pollution, air pollution, those are incredibly important things, right?
And I would say far more important than space pollution at this moment.
Okay.
Far more important.
Okay, let's see. Those problems are obviously important, and I don't think we are taking anything away from the resources we use to solve those problems when we try to solve space pollution. I mean, we have enough resources to solve space pollution. We have enough resources to, I mean, at least do something about it. And again, regulations, they are really important, but we have millions of debris just orbiting the Earth, and they're really dangerous. They're circling the Earth up to like 15 kilometers per second, and those fast metals are deadly for satellites. And again, as we rely on satellites more and more every day, I see it becoming a huge problem. And
But
right
when
now,
you say huge, how does it compare from your perspective to, say, air pollution?
I mean, right now, obviously, with the limited satellites we have right now, not so limited, but still, I want to say limited, and they might not be as important as like world hunger and air pollution right now. But the moment right now is like so minuscule in the grand scheme of things.
Tell that to the I don't know, people living in an highly air polluted area. They're wearing masks going day to day, or tell that to people who don't have access to necessary vaccines.
Yeah, though, no one's saying that's not important.
Yeah,
But
you kind of did say it's not important compared
How?
to huge scheme. Like
How?
in the grand scheme of things, you say they're less important than addressing space pollution. No.
I'm saying the problems we have at the moment are really important for the moment. But space debris, thinking far into the future, then population rises exponentially. The air pollution, the world hunger is going to get significantly worse if we do not find somewhere else to live. Or at least, advance our technology and maybe terraform a planet or create space habitats or space colonies, as we talked about that and asteroid mining on the last episode. So as space debris is a problem, space pollution actually, I keep saying space debris, but space pollution is a problem. So space pollution is a problem that gets worse and worse, and it gets faster, it rises exponentially. So it gets worse and worse as time passes on, and as we rely on satellites, and satellites, they provide really good services today, really important services today, but satellites are like a small part of this.
Could you when I imagine what we use satellites for, it's only TV and GPS and now internet. What do we use satellites for apart from that? Could you inform me more? Because
TV and GPS. TV is probably the biggest form of communication in it was.
Yeah, but it's slowly getting replaced, don't you agree?
Yes, it's slowly getting replaced, and satellites are also used more and more to provide internet today too, and as we progress, I see satellites becoming the main source of data transfer in.
Why would we want to do
some
that?
years.
If space pollution is as bad as you say, why not transfer information through land, on Earth, and use satellites when it's so dangerous? If a satellite is damaged somehow, then we would have a break in the internet. I don't know how would that be, but
So we want to solve space pollution so that doesn't happen, and we want to solve space pollution, and satellites are a key source of data transfer today, and I think that will continue, and it will get bigger, and I guess as internet too. I think satellites would be relied on even more as years pass, and satellites are just the disruption of satellites are like a small part of space pollution. When we're talking about 100 years from now, maybe 200 years from now, when humanity has to go somewhere else other than Earth and has to find another habitable not planet, not just planets. Terraforming a planet would take really long, but just a habitat to live. The Earth, as you say, climate change and air pollution, those are getting worse, and it will keep getting worse.
Why do you assume that though? You assume space pollution is getting worse, but you also say we can get it under control.
Yeah, air pollution could be.
Why would you not say the same for air pollution? why shouldn't we dedicate the same effort to other forms of pollution and overcome them? Why do you say they're going to get worse?
I mean, space pollution is going to get worse too, and by worse, I don't mean like, I mean harder to control. And as population rises, as technology rises, and I mean, living on living on Earth and manufacturing on Earth, the who knows the other technologies that will come with years, and I mean manufacturing those and living with an increasingly large population, I think it's safe to say that we need to start thinking about habitats outside of Earth.
Mm.
I mean, and the Kessler syndrome, that's like a hypothetical scenario proposed by Donald J. Kessler, in which space pollution rises exponentially. And so humanity is kind of trapped in a cage formed by none other than their own spacecraft.
Could this really happen? Like in the near future, we wouldn't be able to shoot aircraft through the atmosphere just because it is so crowded. I mean, I know
Yes.
it looks like I've seen this website where you can look at all the different satellites orbiting Earth, and they're like huge red dots. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on in pictures of Earth outside from outer space, it looks pretty clear to me. I mean, is it because they're so small I can't see? Or like I know it might become more dangerous, but should isn't there a good chance always that the spacecraft will not even encounter any sort of space debris?
I mean, um, there. Okay. What was that? Actually, is there like a thumbs up feature?
I have no idea.
What was that? I'm not sure, but so space pollution. I mean, it definitely could get exponentially worse, and it could get into get it could rise to a point where we wouldn't even be able to send anything out of that like huge barrier of unused metal.
But how far along would you think this could happen if we neglect space pollution altogether?
Okay, so let's go 100 years back. Okay, 100 years ago, there weren't any space activity outside of Earth. I mean, like satellites and spacecraft. And 100 years have passed, and you see, like it's gotten infinite. The amount of spacecraft has gotten infinitely more. I mean,
But I mean, this 100 years, we have discovered ways to go into space. For example, when you like divide the 100 years into two halves, much of the development have been in the first half. No, from nothing we have lots of satellites orbiting, and a few more. There is like the X-ray devices traveling to further regions of space. But I mean, has there been any major breakthroughs recently? Is it really increasing exponentially?
I mean, it is rising exponentially, but even when we say exponentially, it's not like a smooth graph. It can have some lows, it can have some highs where it gets even faster. The advancement gets even faster, or sometimes slower, as I said. But like when we talk about fundamental things, like let's say just spacecraft propulsion, I mean that's a really fundamental thing when we look at the development of spacecraft today. And at that time, I mean, those fundamental things are of course like a huge advancement from nothing to just like being able to send stuff out of the atmosphere. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, and so much of that happened in the first half, as you said, but in the second half too, it's gotten way more complex. Spacecraft has gotten way more complex, and it has become way more widespread too. I mean, the amount of companies producing spacecraft have risen. I mean, companies producing spacecraft even. In the first half, it was like almost entirely spacecraft were almost entirely produced by the government.
Yes.
So it's rising. The popularity of spacecraft is rising, and I think we're going to rely on satellites and spacecraft a lot more in the future. And when it's rising exponentially, but as you said, like the first key fundamental things have like a really big impact. Of course, they happened in the first half. It's like comparing to the discovery of fire, for example. I mean, it's a huge advancement by itself, but the things we produce with like electricity, I mean, they're different things, of course, but with fire today, they're a lot more complex and they're a lot more common. And we rely on it a lot more too. As fire gotten more common, we relied on it more. So it always gets your thumbs up. It doesn't get mine. It doesn't. Oh, it does maybe, but okay.
No, let's continue on. So space pollution. I understand your point about it being like it will become really important in the coming years. But what do you say to my suggestion in the beginning of the episode, where I think we should focus our where I said we should focus our resources to problems affecting us currently and use regulations to control space pollution at the moment. You said we have enough resources to address both or address all of them, but I would say it is hard to convince people. Accomplishing cleaning space would be with taxpayers' money, and you would need to then the governments would need to convince people that this is a problem that is in their interest, that is in the interest of everyone to solve. However, how would you convince a person who is like not interested in space at all, or I don't know, not at all concerned with what happens 200 years after their death. Because if we are to make extra resources for this, people are going to need to be convinced. How would you sell solving space pollution to the non-concerned
caring
person?
about what happens and the people 200 years from now, I mean, that's not I don't think that's something that can be thought. I think that's something that differs from person to person. I mean,
but if it differs from person to person and we don't have enough people supporting space pollution, supporting solving space pollution, we don't support space pollution, sorry. Supporting solving space pollution, then it won't happen. If you think it is valuable, why do you think so? Because this is like this involves lots and lots of extrapolation and
yes, I mean, again, it comes down to the resources, as your point, as I got. I mean, the resources and I think we have the resources.
Yeah, we do have the resources, but
We're
how-
not lacking in resources for like air pollution or space pollution. I mean,
I would say we are not lacking in resources for, I don't know, free ice cream machines for every school, but that like, since we are not able to convince people that, or since we are not able to pass or every school having an ice cream machine as a valid worthy of taxpayers' money policy, it doesn't come to be. So how do you say we like, if we want to allocate a significant portion of our resources to solving space pollution,
a significant portion. I don't think it's a significant portion at all. I think it's
like how
it's
much?
a really solvable it's a really solvable problem, and it's easier than ever to solve it at the very early stages of space pollution. As the scenario I talked about, the Kessler syndrome, it's like it's a cascade of space junk just floating around and colliding with each other, and that creates more space debris, and those space debris collide with each other as well, creating even more space debris, and of course there are no functional satellites left in this cascade of debris and collisions. So it's easier than ever to solve it in the early stages right now. And I mean, I think you're talking about it like we need to get the resources we spend for like air pollution and other problems right now, and we have to relocate them to solve space pollution. I don't think that's the case. Again, there are like so much resources on Earth, and I don't think we're taking anything away from solving air pollution and world hunger to solve space pollution. I mean,
but you would have to convince the people to actually follow through with this. I mean, people are take climate change. Many people are of the opinion that it is not worth solving at the moment. Why would I care? It doesn't affect me. People are saying, and it's much more urgent than space pollution. Where there are people who aren't convinced climate change is a worthy cause to allocate resources, what would you think they would say about space pollution?
I mean,
it would be even more like far into the future, even more.
Why do we care about what other people think about these huge problems, like on social media?
But
I mean, like,
those are the people who like most of the world.
Why not solve it yourself?
Myself, I don't have like billions of dollars sitting in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Or neither does.
But I mean,
either some people are going to dedicate.
You can't convince everyone. You don't have to convince everyone that this is. You can convince them that this is important, but if they don't care about the people 100 years from now, I mean, what else can you add on that?
But like what I'm saying is that if we are to solve this problem, because evidently we are not solving climate change, so people are not enough people are on board with addressing problems that are not affecting themselves at the moment but will affect future generations. Do you have a solution in mind for this? Because as it is now, it appears we won't solve either. Or we would have to come up with an
I think it's
incredibly clever shortcut way of addressing these problems. Otherwise, with our current methods, I don't see how we can solve either.
Space pollution?
Space pollution, yes.
Okay.
We have the technological capabilities, we just don't have the motivation to do so.
The motivation, okay.
Motivation as in people who don't agree, people who don't I don't know.
I mean, there are a lot of organizations working on space pollution, like the European Space Agency or NASA, and or some private companies. Like, I mean, you don't have to motivate everyone. Again, and you can't motivate everyone.
I mean, you can. I mean,
You can.
I think you shouldn't say we can't.
Everyone. I'm talking like 8 billion people.
It is a possibility, however, small. Like.
Okay, yeah. There is a small possibility
And
that
if we are like working towards an ideal, we'll get much.
I mean, you can increase the amount of people who agree with you, but I don't think you can convince everyone, and I don't think you have to convince everyone. I think you just have to convince yourself, and I think you have to work on it. And by yourself, I don't mean just you. Again, as you said, you don't have $1 billion in your back pocket, so I mean, just you have to convince, not convince. You have to work on it with people with the same mentality towards the future. And I mean, the airplanes. That interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, so the interviewer was asking him about space exploration, and he said, "We have so many problems here on Earth. Why are we focusing on this space exploration thing?" And again, Neil deGrasse Tyson gave an example on it about airplanes, like at the dawn of the airplane era. So many people, even like a majority of the people, call this like a stunt. Why are we spending this much money on this stupid airplane thing? And so the people who cared about it, and the people who cared about building something that would outlive themselves, worked on it, collaborated, and created in a lucrative and really beneficial industry today, and that is flight. I mean,
and you say the same will happen with space exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, I mean,
I wish I was born then, but I guess the people born then will wish they were born later. So
yeah.
It's good that we are like increasing the.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's better to wish that you were born later than to wish you were born before, right? I mean,
yeah.
So
it
that shows
the
that
right
humanity is increasing in advancement technology and stuff like that. So yeah, we talked about a lot about the regulatory things, and maybe a little bit of politics, and maybe a little bit of maybe we did a little debate here too, but I wanted to talk about like how we can solve space pollution, and I wanted to talk about the technical part of space pollution as well. So how I want to ask you about space pollution again, and I want to ask you about the technical part now, not the regulatory or the like societal part of it. I want to say, like, how do you think we can solve space pollution?
I mean, to use magnets, get put in orbit some device with a magnet and a huge net and grab whatever we can, or I don't know, somehow shoot them into the atmosphere so they burn up on entry.
Ooh, oh, okay. Shoot them?
Into the atmosphere.
Oh, okay, that was a new one. I asked a lot of people about space pollution, and that was the new answer I heard now. Okay, so I heard...
It'll be like Star Wars, you know, they
Yeah.
enter the asteroid belt and
Pew pew.
shoot out potato-shaped asteroids.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that was a creative one. I mean, we have worked on laser brooms. Laser brooms. I think it's a project similar to your idea. So, it's like shooting the debris, but from Earth, shooting the debris from Earth and not from space. Like, so we have like these laser stations, and we use lasers to heat up the debris and make them fall into the atmosphere where they would eventually burn.
That's cool. But
I mean,
I'm guessing they take precautions so it doesn't fall somewhere in, like non.
Like an airplane or something.
Yeah, like an airplane or like within the like superhero movies, there's this giant asteroid moving towards Earth. And, evacuate this place, evacuate that place. That would happen with space debris, right? They're small.
Yeah, they're small. Some of them are small, some of them are large, some of them.
How large are we talking? What is the largest piece of space debris?
Let's say half of the International Space Station, for example.
Yeah, that's. What's that compared to asteroids passing?
I mean, there aren't space infrastructure that big other than like the International Space Station.
Yeah, okay.
And I gave an example like that. Like, let's say the International Space Station collided with space debris and it was like separated into two halves. That would be really bad, of course, but
especially for the astronauts.
Yeah, for the astronauts especially, but fortunately you don't have a lot of astronauts on board on satellites right now. But again, the amount of people doing space operations in space will increase again. So that would also be a risk for human life, not just satellites. At that point, space pollution, I mean. But so they're really small space debris, space junk, smaller than 1 centimeter too, but they are really dangerous, and I mean really dangerous. I'm not exaggerating that. Traveling at 15 kilometers per second, I think you can imagine how dangerous that would be.
Like a bullet.
Yeah, a bullet. A lot faster than a bullet, right? Depends on the bullet, and we'll have to check on that, but 15 kilometers per second is a lot, and
yes,
that could easily destroy a functional satellite, something smaller than 1 centimeter, and there are like 130 million of those smaller than 1 centimeter. So
what did we do? Shoot confetti into space?
No, not shoot confetti, but I mean
300 million. Did they just
no
grind up the spacecraft?
130 million, but they didn't grind up the spacecraft. But I think that shows you the effect of space pollution. I mean, it kind of grinds up the spacecraft. Like, we didn't send confetti into space, we didn't send that spacecraft dust into space. That was created by satellites and spacecraft colliding. So they collided so many times, and they collided with other space debris, so they've gotten a lot smaller. And again, 130 million pieces of those, and there are a lot less satellites, as you can imagine, a lot less than 130 million. So they're very dangerous, and we're losing a lot of spacecraft and satellites by those space debris, and it will get worse in the future if we do not take action. But again, going back, we were talking about the ways we can collect space debris, and there is this private company, Astroscale. You said magnets too. They developed a spacecraft collecting space debris with magnets, and there's a really simple problem with this. They can only collect like around 20% of space debris, because around 80% of space debris is aluminum.
Aluminum. Oh.
Yeah, so magnets can't attract them. So we can only collect like a small portion of those. But
Why do we use aluminum in spacecraft so much?
I mean, it's not expensive. It's light. It's light again. It's light. It's light. That's a big part of it, and it's like bendable, easily bendable too. So, and I guess like for example, for the light parts of a spacecraft, let's say, some like arms, some parts to connect the main module into the other parts, like let's say um, let's say solar panels. So they're used a lot for their lightness, and that makes it easier to again move the spacecraft in space. So that's really improves the mobility of the spacecraft using aluminum, and it's nicely durable. I mean,
But that is the point that I like.
I mean, even if it was steel or something else, space debris would destroy any spacecraft if it is big enough. So, in terms of durability, that doesn't matter much.
I see.
So, magnets could be used to get the other 20%, and that other 20% is usually the more precious metals used in spacecraft, like gold, for example. So
Shiny.
yeah, so just taking those to Earth or to another space facility to reuse those metals, that's a possibility. But to solve space pollution, solve the risk of space pollution, it's not viable. So there's also the European Space Agency's Claude debris collectors. Yeah.
But how can those get like the little pieces?
Yeah, that's the problem. You got it exactly right. They can't. So they can only get the large chunks, like a solar panel, for example, or like a half of a module of a spacecraft. So they can only get the large parts, large chunks of spacecraft, space debris. So yeah, again, that could be used to reuse those metals, but to prevent space pollution as a problem, it's not viable again. But it's all of these projects are not, I mean, they're like we're really early in trying to stop space pollution, and they're like experiments, and they're providing us stepping stones to work on those. In my project for school, I designed a spacecraft, and I wrote a little essay about it. And I used some of the ideas already used in collecting space pollution, or attempts at collecting space pollution, collecting space debris. So in my spacecraft, the spacecraft I designed for the competition in my school, I designed magnetic nets to collect the debris. I designed like a cylinder-like main module for the spacecraft, for foldable solar panels to collect energy, and I also designed like a lid so that the net, we could use the net. So the net is a magnetic net, and we're not going to use the magnets to collect the debris. We're using the magnets to help open the net and
Close it.
Yeah. So again, you can imagine how a net would work on Earth, but in space there's no gravity, so it could like curl up and
That's a
Get-
great idea, actually, using magnets.
Thanks. Okay, so they could curl up and get into weird shapes. So we don't want that. We want it to be a firm, solid net, so we can collect the asteroids. And so, no, sorry, asteroid. I got carried away there. Space debris. So, but that could be used to collect asteroids too. Why not? I mean, metals and metals, right? So, it also has like magnets near the end of the net, so it could close, and we can also switch those magnets to utilize the attractive and repulsive feature of magnets. So we could use the repulsive feature or ability to like open up the net, and we could use the attractive force of magnets to close up the net. So I also the net, it could collect debris down to the molecular level.
What? How? Like, I imagine a net, even like, for example, using a net for fishing, small fish slip through.
Oh no, saying net is actually not quite right. I mean, it's a net, but like a closed net, or it's.
It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like a.
Wow.
I couldn't describe it, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a full-on solid, not
Yeah.
crisscross.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not a lattice sort of thing. It's just
Yeah, it doesn't
sort of
have like
like
holes.
a raincoat, but net size.
Okay. Net sized raincoat, yeah. It doesn't have holes, so we could collect debris down to the molecular level and up to half of the ISS level. So we could collect debris of any size. That's a big plus, and we could collect debris of any material again. Has nothing to do with the material, it collects anything. So that's why I wanted to go with a net mechanism, and we talked about electric propulsion in my asteroid collecting video, asteroid mining video podcast episode. So I gave them an electric motor. I designed an electric motor in my spacecraft. So we talked about that. It's a lot more efficient to use. So that's the design of the spacecraft. Maybe I'll share my essays. I'm not really sure how to do that on YouTube. There's like the community section.
You'll read them aloud.
I'll read them aloud. Nah. Nah. I can't really read that. I kind of did read that aloud in this episode, so I mean, I kind of read the pinpoint ideas and the design of the spacecraft, but if I could share the entire essay, that would be cool. I want to do that for the asteroid mining spacecraft too. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. I had a great time with Emerald talking about space debris. Hope you had a great time too. So, thanks everyone. This is it for this episode, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.